So in related news to the death of expertise, the disregard for science and data and research, is that the fact that the International Governmental Panel on Climate Change released its long-awaited report just the other day. And before I get to some of the key findings that I find interesting and alarming, I want to talk about an aspect of American culture that exists within evangelical Christianity. There's this pastor named Perry Stone, and we're going to get to a clip of him. But coming from this faith tradition, I was raised an evangelical Christian, a conservative Christian nationalist, if you will. And when I was coming up in the church, it was taught that God gave man dominion over the earth. And because of that, we needed to be good stewards of God's creation, the planet. And it doesn't seem to be that way anymore. Perry Stone here, who isn't some no-name, you may not know who he is, but he's got a YouTube channel of like 650,000 people. He's the leader of a congregation. People listen to him. They look up to him. They admire him. They honor him with leadership. And he is saying, in this clip I'm getting ready to play, screw it. Let it burn. Yeah, climate change is real, but we don't care because Jesus is coming back.
In Revelation chapter 20, when Christ comes back to earth and sets up his kingdom, he's going to change everything. And there's going to be 1,000 years of peace. And so the sons of God, and these are the children of God, these are believers who return with Christ to set up the kingdom for 1,000 years. We're going to see a complete change in the earth, and that what we call the travail of creation or the travail of the earth will cease when the Messiah returns. So those who criticize believers now for not being, environmentally concerned or whatever, we know how the book ends. We know where this is going. We know how in the end, when Messiah comes back, look, folks, can I say something to you and say it in love? It's wonderful to do all that we can to help the planet, but at the same time, if you know what the prophecy says, you know what's coming, and you know that real peace, real joy, and everything that men want will only happen with the return of the Messiah. And you can see that all through the book of Zechariah. You can see it in the writings of Isaiah. And that Messiah, without a doubt, is one man, and it's Jesus Christ.
That is alarming. That is an admission that, listen, a lot of Christians, we just don't care about it because we're waiting for Jesus. Our faith is paramount to anything else. We're gambling on the fact that Jesus is going to be coming back to save us, so let it burn. That is a remarkable admission that I believe is held by millions of people. And it is very difficult to pry that viewpoint away from people when it is not substantiated by fact, when it is only an emotional response to what is happening in our world. And let's talk a little bit about what's happening in our world, specifically some of the key findings of the IPCC report. One is that humans are to blame for climate change, without a doubt. We are in a situation now where it cannot be denied. Reading from this article from Reuters, the Intergovernmental Panel on Climate Change, the IPCC, used its strongest terms yet to assert that humans are causing climate change, with the first line of its report summary reading, quote, "It is unequivocal that human influence has warmed the atmosphere, ocean, and land." It is unequivocal. The stark language marked a shift from previous IPCC reports, which had said it was extremely likely that industrial activity was to blame. There is no uncertainty language in this sentence because there is no uncertainty that global warming is caused by human activity and the burning of fossil fuels. That was the IPCC co-author, Frederic Otto. He's a climatologist at the University of Oxford. These are learned individuals. They are well-versed in climatology. They're not making wild claims like a Mike Lindell with zero expertise. These people have dedicated their lives to one single topic, to get it right, to be an expert, not to be fueled by Dunning-Kruger mania. Another key takeaway is that the temperatures are going to continue to rise. Even the severest of cuts are unlikely to prevent global warming of 1.5 degrees Celsius over pre-industrial temperatures. Without immediate steep emissions cuts, though, average temperatures could cruise past 2 degrees Celsius by the end of the century. That is scary. And it may seem like a long ways away, the end of the century, but if you're getting ready to have a kid, they could very well be alive then. We're talking about protecting the climate and the planet for posterity's sake. This is a literal existential crisis that we're facing. What's the saying about it's an honorable man who plants a tree, the shade of which he'll never enjoy? I'm sure I botched it, but it's something like that. And are we going to be the Perry Stones of the world, or are we going to plant trees, the shade of which we'll never enjoy? Another key finding here is one that we all are witnessing in real time. And that is that extreme weather events are getting more and more common and more extreme. They can tie this to what's called attribution science. It's no longer guessing whether or not climate change is the triggering factor for the wildfires here in California or in Australia or anywhere else around the world. It's no longer up in the air whether flooding events are caused by the climate change. They know now. Attribution science. That's something you should familiarize yourself with. In the past, people would say, you can't say anything about any individual event, said IPCC co-author Michael Weiner, a climate scientist at the Lawrence Berkeley National Laboratory in California. But now we can actually make quantitative statements about extreme weather events. This is serious. Now, listen, the report does say that if we were to stop it, that some of these changes are going to happen whether we could go to zero carbon emission right now, and some of these changes are still going to take place. But they're saying it's not too late. This is an extreme problem. I believe it's going to take extreme measures to get it under control. Whether that be the Green New Deal, whether that be some of the initiatives that Biden has proposed, but it's going to take more than just letting it burn because of Jesus. That is a fact.